Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to episode 73 of the Knuckle Sammich podcast, the official MMA podcast of Sauce on the Side. As always, Dippers, I'm your host, Drake, joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Thomas R. Shackelford.
Good morning. If I sound a little sexier again this week, I'm still sick. I've still got whatever crap is in the air. So
You know what I love about it, though? Is that most people, they only use the Breathe Right strip whenever they're sick. But you just go Breathe Right strip all the time. That way you just trick people into thinking...
I'm trying to avoid the Colby Covington surgery, as long as I can. So I'll just Breathe Right strip all day, every day.
No, I think you spent enough money on Breathe Right strips that you could have already had the surgery.
The trick is you got to try and catch them on clearance. Sometimes they'll make some weird ones, like some clear ones or some lavender smelling ones, and they'll suck. So they'll put them on clearance for half price. You got to just gobble those up.
So not only are you using Breathe Right strips, but you're using the worst type of Breathe Right strip, the one nobody else wants.
Yeah.
Is there anything that's more oddly overpriced than a Breathe Right strip?
No. Really, it's maybe cold medicine. I bought some cold medicine.
Well, but that at least
$15 for 6 ounces.
But we expect medication.
I could have bought some whiskey for the same price that I bought that. So, but no, Breathe Right strips is ridiculous. If you've never bought some, go look at them. And I can tell you the off-brand, like the Equate brand or Target brand, they're worse than just getting the actual Breathe Right strip.
I'm trying to think of stuff that's actually more oddly overpriced that you just don't understand why. But I think Breathe Right strip takes the cake, man. I mean, it's a piece of flexi plastic you use one time that...
Imagine how much money Jerry Rice spent on Breathe Right strips.
Is that why you wear those?
Well, I mean...
I wish you'd wear eye black, too, with it. Would that not be sweet?
Hey, next time we get together to play football, I'm going to have to find something.
Hell yes.
Full Jerry Rice.
Hell yes. So, Dippers, today we're going to talk about UFC Fight Night 158. Recap that. Look forward to our bets at UFC Fight Night 159. Talk a little bit about some news and notes. That I at least have a couple. There is quite a bit of stuff I feel like happening in the MMA world or the combat sports world that I would like to discuss. So, before we get to any of that, producer, you know what to do. Welcome to the Knuckle Sammich podcast with Thomas R. Shackelford, a Sauce on the Side production. All right, Mr. Shackelford. So, UFC Fight Night 158. All in all, I thought it was a pretty good night of fights. A lot of fireworks, to say the least. We'll kind of work through this card backwards. First thing I want to talk about, Todd Duffy. Todd Duffy.
That was I don't know.
That was a cry for help.
Be a fighter that goes down in history with a more weird career. I mean, he
easily
exploded on the scene, fastest knockout in heavyweight history.
Knocking everybody out.
And he comes in and a lot of people don't remember this, but he was beating his second opponent. He was beating the brakes off him. It was almost like Rose Namajunas versus Andrade just a month ago. Just like it wasn't competitive at all. And then he kind of just runs into a crappy right hand and gets dropped. And then he goes and takes a really quick fight against Overeem over in Japan, which that was when it was like Ubereem, dude was eating more steroids than Brock Lesnar and Jose Canseco combined.
Can we use the term eating more steroids than you can shake a stick at?
Yeah, there we go. Eating more steroids than you can shake a stick at. After that, it just got even weirder. I mean, he had some kind of illness. He's been gone for 4 years, and then he's usually a quiet guy. I don't remember him ever talking to the media a ton.
Dude, I had never heard him speak.
And then, did you see his media build up for this one? He was very outspoken, about how the media treats fighters, and he thought he should be getting paid more, and he's trying to live up to the hype that he once was. And then we have this weird fight again, where he comes out kind of guns blazing, knocks the dude down, but then he gets hit, and then he knocks him down again, but he mushes his punches, like he just gets just trying to go bananas, and almost looks like he almost punches himself out. And then there's like the eye poke didn't look that bad. I've been trying to keep an eye on Twitter to see if, because some of those, they don't look that bad, but they're pretty serious. I haven't seen how serious it was or anything, but that he told the doctor he was seeing double, and then when you tell the doctor that, the fight's over. So I don't know that we'll ever again see another fighter with that weird of circumstances throughout their entire career.
Yeah, I just want to look at like the 2-minute span where he was standing there after he'd gotten the eye poke, and the doctor looks at him and he says, "If you can see, you can go." And everybody in that situation, we've seen it time and time again, they say, "Oh yeah, I'm fine." Like, even, fast forward 2 hours later on that same night, we saw Tyson Fury get his eye completely gashed open in 2 different spots, and they come out and they say, "Can you see?" He said, "I can see perfectly fine. I can see perfectly fine." And then as soon as the fight's over, he's like, "Yeah, after that 3rd round and I got cut in the eye," he said, "I was seeing double the whole time out of my right eye." It's like, he probably was. And you just do whatever you have to do in order to stay out there to give yourself a chance. Because in my opinion, I think Todd Duffy was probably winning that 1st round.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was close. That guy did sting him a couple times, but he knocked the dude down twice. So, look, it's no secret in the fight world, if you tell the doctor you're seeing double, you can't see.
His hands are tied.
Blurry. There's nothing they can do. It's instant into a fight. So I'll never call into question like a fighter's will or heart to be in there, because he made it in there. But there is a stark contrast. Michael Bisping's talked about it. He fought blind. He fought with one eye for like the last 5 years of his career. He's even joked about it now that he like the medicals to pass to get into a fight are just ridiculous. And he's basically blind. I mean, he's legally blind in one eye. He fought with one eye for the last 5 years of his career. He wanted to be there, though.
Yes, I agree. Do you think this is the end of seeing Todd Duffy inside the octagon?
I don't know. I was blown away that he was even on this card. The heavyweight division's always, even though when there's a bunch of tough guys, because of it's such a one-punch KO division, they're always needing faces in there. So who knows? I mean, I really couldn't. That is one that if it was an over/under on he's coming back or he's not, I would bet the not.
Yes.
But hell, 4 years from now we could be looking at a card and it'd be like, "What the hell,
Todd Duffy? He's back!" No, I just can't handle that in my life. Like the emotional roller coaster that you get on with Todd Duffy is something that you better strap on for, because it's going to be a wild ride, and it's going to be over a span of several years, Unbelievable. So one fight that I feel like we wouldn't be doing any justice if we didn't discuss, Tristan Connolly ends up beating Michel Pereira, a guy that we kind of hyped up last week on the show. This was maybe the weirdest fight of the year.
So Pereira, he actually missed weight by a pound. Then at the ceremonial weigh-ins, he did a backflip off the scale. So like it wasn't really weighing him in. He just used stand up there pose. He does a backflip off of it, almost lands on his head. Then he does some more breakdancing moves. Then the fight, they timed it. I think it said he had a 6-minute walkout full of choreography with his cornerman. And then he jumps out in like the first 30 seconds fight. He does like 4 backflips and his knee stuff. I actually scored the fight for him. I thought Michel won because round 2, he took him down. He had like 3 minutes of top control and he was working. So any round you have 3 minutes of top control and you didn't get knocked down or almost submitted, like that's your round.
Yes.
In the first round I actually gave to him. Even though he was going bananas and the backflips weren't landing, he was doing a ton of work in those rounds. I actually gave him 1 and 2, clearly lost 3. And even towards the end of 2, that guy started coming after him. So That Conley dude, he's actually a 155-pounder. He took that fight on 6 days' notice.
No, I definitely believe it, because whenever they were out there fighting, I legitimately thought there was a 25-pound difference.
He probably was. I mean, I think he weighed in at like 169 or something, so he didn't cut weight at all.
No.
They just called him and said, hey, we need somebody to fight this guy, and he said, okay. Another great thing about it, so they won Fight of the Night bonus, which it wasn't one of those knockdown, drag out, back and forth fights, but it was one of the craziest fights you'll ever see. They won the Performance of the Night bonus, so he got 20% of Pereira's purse just off the jump street because he missed weight. If you miss weight, you get 20% of their purse. So he got that 20%, and then they won the Fight Night bonus, but Pereira is not eligible for it because he missed weight. So they gave his $50,000 to Conley also. So the dude won $100,000 in bonuses.
What?
And that's not including the 20% here he got from the purse. So
good for him.
Over $100,000 on 6 days. Now, imagine waking up 6 days from now and having an extra $100,000 in the bank account.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm really happy for that.
Couldn't be a better story. And the dude can fight like hell. I can't wait to see him on a full camp and at 55. He's going to be a fun guy.
No, I absolutely agree. And, I don't know anything about him personally, but if you just look at him, you're just like, this is a nice guy.
Yeah, he's a people's champion, I would say. Because, like, when you look at it, I'll be honest, when they pulled him out to lands, I was like, who in God's name did they pull out of this crowd to fight this guy?
Yeah.
And then he ends up winning.
No, definitely good for him.
Wild night at the office.
Yeah, I was very excited about that. I don't think that there was a bigger... And I was calling him Canelli. So, like, I was all in on this guy just being like,
He was the Italian Stallion.
The Italian Stallion out there against Apollo Creed with his 10-minute walkout. You know what's funny about that is that he actually had a longer walkout than Tyson Fury this weekend.
He had a longer walkout than the linear heavyweight boxing champ of the world.
I love that. So, next up, we have Glover Teixeira beating Nikita Krylov in a 3-round decision. You actually called this. This was one of the dog picks that you had given us. What do you think you saw from Glover in this fight? Did anything surprise you about it?
The only thing that really surprised me was Krylov had a little bit better ground game than I expected. He actually reversed Glover in some positions, and Glover's really known as just a lights-out jiu-jitsu player. Once he gets on top of you, it's usually guard to half guard to mount to choke. He doesn't have the type of jiu-jitsu that switches positions back and forth. But Krylov, and he damn near got a rear naked choke within the first couple minutes. It's probably a move that he's really good at in practice, but you don't see it happen a lot. He kind of flipped up on the back with no hooks and locked in a rear naked really, really quick. Marcelo Garcia was always known for that. Just if the neck was open, he would just jump on it, whether he had hooks in or not. But Glover, veteran, got out of it, and just got a really good workman-like win. Glover's looking so good, man. He had those weird fights where he didn't look that good and he was getting beat up. And then this one, just the veteran comes out. He was striking when he was striking. He was grappling when he should have been grappling. Just an all-around really good performance.
Yeah,
I did notice we need to keep an eye on the USADA testing. Krylov looked noticeably thicker than he ever has before.
Yeah,
I heard him say that for the first time in his career he got like a strength and conditioning coach, which I'm not one of those guys that claims everybody's on steroids. If you're a 25, 26, 27-year-old pro athlete and you've never lifted weights before and then you just get on this regimen, you're gonna blow up. I mean, that's just how life is. They're not everyday people who go to the gym and they're like, well, I've lost 2.5 pounds in 6 months. That's not them. So I will keep an eye on that, though.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I bring this to you with a heavy heart. Justin Gaethje knocked out Cowboy Cerrone in the first round. Definitely a bummer. I really don't know where to go from here with Cowboy. I feel like we basically see this like every 3 or 4 years. Cowboy gets on a hot streak, wins a ton of fights, loses a couple back-to-back, and then he basically starts over from a fresh start. What did you see in this fight, and did anything surprise you out of this fight?
Gaethje. I was so big on Cerrone, especially at the weigh-ins, because I even told you how many fights have we seen him where he's friendly with the guy. He always fights better when he's smiling, when he's friendly with him.
Yes.
Yancy Medeiros, the Brazilian cowboy. I'm trying to think. Some of these other guys, he always fights better. I don't want to say he didn't get started, but he almost just... it was another one where he didn't get started. Gaethje came out throwing leg kicks right away, and I felt like Cerrone weathered that early storm, like that first minute, 2 minutes, because Gaethje was throwing bombs, he was throwing leg kicks. The only thing I noticed a little different in the Cowboy, he wasn't really moving out of the way, he was more covering up. He was covering up like in a shell, taking the shots, and not moving as much. But then there came a point where Gaethje wasn't necessarily coming forward a ton, and Cowboy was looking a lot better with his jab. He was moving his head better, and then right as I felt like he was starting to get going, he got hit with. It was almost like a right hook, maybe stun him, and then almost like a left hook after that. A little more circular punches instead of the big straight right. And once he went down, it was pretty clear he was down. So. Oh yeah, no,
he was done once he went down. I thought Justin Gaethje just looked a little different.
His style has changed since those first ones. I can't put my finger on exactly what it was. He's doing the same stuff, but it's almost the timing is. I can't explain it. I'll have to watch some more of his fights, but he's the same guy. He's the same exact guy throwing big right hand, left hand, and leg kicks, but he's totally different than when
it's almost more like he's like almost more slick.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, where before it was just like, I'm going to get out there and just maul this guy's head off. And now it's the same thing, but it's like, it's more slick. And, I know that he did lose to Poirier, and he's lost some fights, especially to people, that you just look at and think that there's no way that those people can beat Khabib. But I think Gaethje may have the tools to give Khabib his toughest fight.
Yeah, he's up there. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. I think Ferguson's right up there. Gaethje, the biggest difference between Gaethje and Ferguson was I would say Gaethje hits harder. One punch KOs harder. Now Tony does a ton of damage on guys and he's knocked people out, but just one shot, one kill, that's Gaethje for sure has that over Tony.
Yeah, I really think that Gaethje, if he gets a chance to fight Khabib, I think it's going to be a lot closer than what a lot of people think, because we've never really seen Gaethje have to use his wrestling. And obviously against Khabib he's going to have to, and we're talking about a guy who is a NCAA All-American in folk style wrestling, which is 100% all Khabib does. And I think Gaethje's the kind of guy that instead of trying to get cute once they get to the ground, which basically everybody has, I haven't seen it yet, but just knowing his background and knowing that he's just sheerly a folk style wrestler, there's no doubt in my mind that he's just going to utilize what we've basically said about Khabib over the last several years of his dominance. Just hit a stand-up. And I think that's exactly what Gaethje would do in that situation.
I don't know what kind of wrestler he was. I want to say I just heard through different interviews and stuff that he was more of like the scrambling, funky style wrestler. So,
yeah.
That could a guy that knows the basics of folk style wrestling to the best possible place it can go, and then added in a lot of scrambles, it could be really dangerous.
I absolutely agree. He doesn't get the next fight though.
No, it's got to be Tony.
It has to be.
I want to say I think Gaethje will get McGregor next.
That'd be fun.
I think that's what's happening.
That would be absolutely fun. So let's go ahead and get to our picks for UFC Fight Night 159. We'll start it off co-main event. Carlo Esparza opens as a plus 110 dog to Alexa Grasso, who's a minus 140 favorite. Mr. Shackelford, what's the pick?
I think those odds are fair. I would say Grasso's the pick here, the favorite. She's younger. Her wrestling's... Esparza's really just basic stand-up to wrestling, just being on top wrestling. Grasso's a little more diverse in her striking, a little younger, not as afraid to kind of go for things. I would say Grasso gets a decision here.
Okay, and our main event, Yair Rodriguez opens as a minus 110 dog to Jeremy Stevens, who is a minus 120 favorite. So right now we basically have a pick'em fight between these two. We haven't seen Yair Rodriguez fight since the crazy back elbow against the Korean Zombie. What is the pick in this fight? I think this is gonna obviously be fight of the night.
Yeah, this is a pick'em for a reason. I had the hardest time. I'm gonna go Rodriguez. Stevens. So we've kind of seen Stevens against that style. He just fought Zabit, and he did struggle with the variety of the stand-up attacks from Zabit. Now, eventually in that fight, he did track Zabit down and land some shots. He also got out-wrestled a little bit in that fight, if I remember correctly. Yair is not going to try and wrestle, really. He's going to be doing all, stand-up techniques. This one's so hard to pick. I would not ever bet money on this one. You don't know what's going to happen.
Nope.
But I would say the safer of the unsafe bet would be Yair by decision.
Yeah, I do not like picking this fight one bit because, honestly, I have no idea what's going to happen. I feel like it could go down different roads, and that's just something I'm not going to be a part of. So I have to ask you, we'll kind of get to some little news and notes around MMA now. The BMF belt, confirmed. Dana White did say that they are making a belt for George Masvidal and Nate Diaz. What are your thoughts on them making a belt? And there's been some talk that The Rock may be there to give one of the fighters the belt. What's your thought on the BMF belt?
I think it's hilarious, and it's so weird that they won't start a 165-pound division. They won't talk about any other divisions, like helping people out in weight. But Nate Diaz is so popular that he just in his random interview, and even when he did the Octagon interview, he didn't say the bad motherfucker belt. He just said, "I'm here defending this title." Blah, blah, blah. But later in the post-fight presser, he said, "I'm defending the bad motherfucker belt." So the popularity of Diaz and Masvidal made this come together, Dana said that they were in the room, they were trying to set up Usman versus Covington, then Covington versus Woodley, and then Usman versus Masvidal, and all that stuff fell through. None of those guys wanted to fight except for Masvidal and Diaz. And then he said, he brought it to his team, just hey, what would you guys think about making a belt for that? And they took it to the design team, and it just came. It's so out of character for Dana White to come up with that shit. It was almost like Diaz said it. It was so popular, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, I decided to go ahead and make that belt for a one-off thing." So he's kind of riding the train there. So. It's going to be hilarious. The fight's going to be insane. It's a headliner of MSG. Should be a wild one.
Yeah, no, that card is absolutely loaded to the gore. I thought this was super, like you said, out of character for Dana White. Usually he's, first one at the podium saying, "Oh, we're going to basically just stomp this down. This is a terrible idea." It's getting kind of boxing-esque, whenever Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor fought over the money belt. So I think it's very.
I didn't even think of that. I forgot all about the money belt thing for that. So
yeah,
he's still a couple pages out of the May Mac book there.
So as goofy as Nate Diaz is, and people say how dumb he is, he's definitely taken a lot from the two fights that he fought against Conor McGregor in being able to sell stuff.
His brother was. He kind of springboarded off his brother. His brother was the anti-hero. I mean, he hated media coverage. He hated all that stuff. He didn't even really like fighting. He said for years, he gets in there, he fights because he's good at it and it makes him money, but he hates the training and this and that, but he does it. They say that, but they're both high-level triathlon guys, so they love training. But,
yes.
I think maybe because Nick Diaz did get some big paydays, but he also had some big hiccups where he had to pay some fines for marijuana and stuff, and then long periods of inactivity. I think that Nate is one of the smartest dudes in the game. He saw that. He's using the same template his brother used but you see, he's playing just enough ball that he can get these big fights.
Yeah.
So.
And it's not like you. So whenever, the difference between Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor, in my opinion right now, is that, Conor is all about every single week coming up with something to stay relevant. And like Nate has this perfect mix of being just a recluse and sprinkling you just enough to where whenever he says something, people now listen.
Yeah. And
where Conor's in the media all the time, it almost gets watered down. And whenever Nate says something, it's going to happen. And it's going to happen because we aren't used to him saying anything. And it's not like he's talking any more than what he did in the past.
No.
But now he's redefining his game as far as being able to say things and make it happen.
Yeah.
Did you hear that Greg Hardy actually has got a new fight coming up?
I did. I saw.
Let me show you a picture, and I want you to explain.
Didn't he have like painted abs? Yeah, he painted abs on himself. And,
yes.
I think that guy's a tough fighter, though. I'll have to rewatch his fights. I want to say I've seen that picture before and just thought, like, what the hell is this dude doing? But I think he's pretty tough. Is he going to beat Greg Hardy? Probably not.
Yeah, he is.
At this point, they're lining him up. I really thought Juan was going to be able to do it, but I don't know. Who knows what we got? Yeah,
he is 1-2-1 in his last 4 fights.
Oh, yeah. So we're just.
What are we doing?
We're just feeding the Greg Hardy hype train here.
I just don't get it. And last thing I wanted to talk about before we get to anything that you brought, Tyson Fury. Deontay Wilder, looks like it's a game set match. It's going to happen. Fury, after his fight, said that he named a date, said that that's the fight to make. Do you see that fight actually happening?
I think it has to because, we had a 3-way tie there, Joshua, Wilder, Fury. Joshua takes a fight with an unknown fat Mexican heavyweight named Andy Ruiz, gets knocked out.
Yes.
So now we're like, we got another guy in the mix here. They're getting ready to fight again. Tyson Fury fighting a pretty much unknown guy to the public the other day. Gets a huge gash on his face in like the second round, third round, and then has to, I saw the cut.
They took everything.
They didn't stop.
Oh, no. I thought they were.
At this point, I think people are done effing around. They're like, hey, if you're in the top 10 heavyweight boxer in the world, you can knock anybody out. So quit giving these guys unknown guys that are good fighters that people just don't know. Let's get it fixed between Fury, Wilder, and then they can take on the winner of Ruiz and Joshua.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It is the fight to make. So any news and notes that you want to discuss before we wrap this show up?
I think we covered it all pretty good. Besides the you talked about McGregor's tweet. He tweeted again like December 14th, and he put a date and a place in a tweet, and that was it. So
I don't get it.
But it was right after the Cowboy Gaethje fight, so we may see Gaethje win. But he's got to get back in the octagon sometime.
Yes.
He doesn't have to. I would rather him just be like, hey, I'm retired. I'm making millions of dollars over here. Why would I do this anymore? I'd rather him see him do that than to try and stay 50-50 in each game and then just end up bad at both.
Yeah, all in or all out. That's just the way it has to be at this point. So, Dippers, hopefully Mr. Shackelford wins you some money. And on that note, for Drake and Mr. Shackelford, Dippers, as always, stay saucy.